Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.
Now, a lot of individuals think that if it is that they have frequent quarrels with somebody in a relationship, some people actually enjoy that and think that that tells them that it's a healthy relationship, while others think that if they don't have any conflict at all, it means that it is a healthy relationship. This is Making It Last podcast. I'm your host, Noreen Daly, and this time around, we're going to be talking about what can be done to change the negative stigma attached to conflict. And to talk to me about that is Monique Ingram, founder of Chance and founder of Awthentik Expressions. Now, I know you're wondering what that is. So, Monique, tell them what that is. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Miss Daly. So, Chance Creative is a full-service institution for secondary students. We work primarily with students who are placed on suspension or facing expulsion. So schools or various agencies will send their students to us. And during that time, we work towards allowing students to tap into their inherent center of excellence, towards training in creative arts, in innovation, technology, and media, all areas that we believe would allow students who we often find to be disruptive to allow a space in which they can channel that behavior, that negative behavior in a positive way.
Okay. And Awthentik Expressions?
Awthentik Expressions is the creative arm of my being. It focuses on theater production, media, and creative arts production. So we produce live shows. We're the producer of Behind the Curtains, which is a live production show, which will look at theater arts and live performances in music, dance, and drama.
Okay.
So we allow persons to showcase their art and their talent on the stage and to be themselves in their most creative way.
Okay. All right. So now that you know that she is a woman wearing several hats, this is just a tip of the iceberg, trust me. So what can be done to change the negative stigma attached to conflict, Monique?
Yes, I really like this topic because it challenges a common notion that persons will have, which is that there are two sides to it. If there's conflict in a relationship, it means that the relationship is not thriving.
Okay.
They are incompatible. There's a constant clash between the two. Then you have the other state in which there is no conflict-free, and they feel as though they are compatible, they are at one, they're centered, when the two can be both in every way. Not so the case. Mm-hmm. Because in situations in which there is no conflict, it doesn't mean that the conflict is not present. It just means that we are not shedding a light on that conflict that which exists. Okay. And then in situations where there is a constant conflict, that relationship can thrive much better than a relationship with no conflict, just on the premise that they're constantly dealing with the issues. Mm-hmm. But the part that makes both relationship situations thrive and successful and healthy is if they communicate and start the conversation on what the issues may be that exist in the relationship. Okay. Because one of the common thread in relationships is that we look at the conflict, but we bypass or we look beyond the issues. So we say, oh, let's jump and fix the conflict, but not what may be the underlying issues, which many persons somewhat overlook, because they believe that once we look at, oh, we're fighting over this and we fix this, we don't look at why the conversation would have started, why the conflict would have started. And once we tap into that conversation, it changes the narrative which exists in relationships, which is that, oh, we are working on this and we fix this conflict, let's move on. When there are million of things that we have hidden under the carpet, and in relationships that are healthy, they believe that, oh, we're happy together. But when there's an issue, because we're so happy, we don't discuss the issue because we just say, oh, we're good. We're at one. You understand me, I understand you. But internally, there's a conflict. And we ignore the internal conflicts that may exist. So even though we're not communicating it, internally, we're having that conflict. We're having conversations with ourselves. We're sometimes practicing how we would actually have the conversation with our partner. And that too can be a dangerous addition to a relationship.
What then will you say to somebody who's listening and saying, but if I feel fine I don't, there, in my mind, there's no evidence of conflict. What am I supposed to do? Pick the conflict or create the conflict?
That sometimes is the case when persons believe that if conflict is absent from your life, then something must be wrong, and then we start picking. Okay, there must be a situation here. There must be a conflict here. We start creating conflicts in our lives. So conversations that would have been healthy, we find ways to disrupt that calm because we thrive on chaos. And as human beings, we believe that if there's no chaos, if there's no conflict, something must be wrong here. And once we change that, we recognize that we don't have to nitpick. If we understand how to deal with conflicts, that's where we're most healthy and successful, when we know how to communicate our issues, we know how to deal with conflicts. It's not the absence of conflict that means that we're thriving and that we're healthy. It's the presence of conflict and our ability to deal with it.
Okay. Is it that I should then be in any relationship or any type of relationship and think that, okay, I must think that now and again conflict will come up? It's just a matter of then how I deal with it.
Oh, you deal with it.
And how we move on.
And that is true. It's not an anticipation of conflict either, where you sit and say, let's wait for the conflict so we can practice our conflict resolution skills.
Okay.
And to show that we are the best communicator.
Right.
Because at times we feel a need to compete with our partner. And it doesn't have to be in a relationship context. It can be in a workspace. It can be a friendship. It can be an intimate relationship. There's a need to say, I am the bigger person because I know how to. And I'm the best communicator. So we anticipate and we wait for a situation, or we create scenarios that might allow us to deal with conflict and to show our superiority in that regards. So in relationship, we should not sit and anticipate a conflict and think that there's a need to have one, but to be prepared for when there is in fact a conflict. We can deal with it, as you said, and we can move past it, and move past it in a healthy way, move past it in a way that not just dismiss it, but both persons understand. There's compromise, there is understanding, there's love, there is respect, and not just, okay, let's sugarcoat it and say what the person wants to hear, because that tends to be the case as well. Let's say what the person wants to hear, let's make them feel good, because this will heal the conflict. But that is actually adding to the conflict.
We've said a lot, but I know somebody might be thinking, but they're not answering the question when we are. So just to make sure that somebody gets it directly, what can be done to change the negative stigma that is attached to conflict?
The what can be done is that persons should change the narrative, which is that in a healthy relationship, there is no conflict. In a turmoil or chaotic relationship, there is conflict. Once we change that narrative, we will approach the situation from this standpoint where we look at, if there is conflict, this is how we will deal with it. And there is no one way of dealing with conflict. I know in many conflict resolution and conflict management sessions, we learn of steps in dealing with conflicts, but the steps can conflict with a person's personality or characteristics, or the steps can conflict with how one may want to deal with conflict. So it's understanding both persons involved in a conflict, or internally how you are dealing with that specific conflict. And from there, you take your steps, what works for you in the sense that in your conversations and in your internal and introspections, you realize that, wait, I prefer to deal with conflicts through this way, or in conversations with this person, in prayer, in counseling. And if that's your way, then you work through it. But changing the narrative of, okay, this is conflict and this is negative, then something must be wrong with me. There is no conflict, this is perfect. There is no perfect relationship and there is no perfect individual. We experience conflict, and conflict will come up in our lives, and it's just how best we deal with it and how prepared we are to deal with it.
What you said just now, Monique, is that basically for that narrative to change, that then involves us. Yes,
it starts with us.
It starts with us. So it starts individually, and then it will have a collective.
Yes,
response.
It will open windows and opportunities for persons to have better relationships, because in many cases, because we don't understand ourselves, and we enter relationships and conversations with our own disconnect and our own narrative and our own nuances. We enter that conversation, that relationship, expecting the person to react to us and to respond to us accordingly. Because a common way we look at things is that we see the world through our eyes or perspective. It's me, me, me. And when we introduce someone else to the conversation, then we realize that, okay, so this person is not added to it. How will I communicate with that person? Let me understand their perspective. Let me see the world through their eyes. And from that, there will now be a unified goal in how we deal with the conflict.
There's some people though, Monique, that their conflict, their way of dealing with conflict is just totally avoid.
To run.
To run
And it's
or
actually one of the
avoidance,
steps.
whatever the technical term
Yeah.
is. So how then do you deal with somebody like that?
Because in many cases, persons may say they are not confrontational, they are introverts, they prefer to avoid because the idea of conflict seems as though it will cause a greater issue or malice or fighting or anything on the pathological side of conflict. We avoid it because we are afraid of the adverse effects of what may come. But conflict is not the issue. Conflict is the result of ignoring the issue, of avoiding the issue. So there's a build-up. And once we keep building that up, then when the conflict actually hits, the result comes, then we realize that this is bigger than me. Then we feel as though we can no longer deal with it. Then it's no longer confrontation. It's no hostility. It's no aggression because it's that build-up coupled with during that time while we're building up, we form our own narrative, we form our own scenarios of what may be the case. So it's all these things playing in our minds, and then when we meet up with a person, it explodes. Yeah. It explodes because we kept it in. So confrontation is not actually something to avoid or to think that it's a negative thing. Confrontation actually helps you to move the conversation forward. And that's what will help conflict as well, to move it forward. Once you're introducing something to the conversation that allows you to move forward, then it will change the outcome. But if you don't add anything to it, the outcome will still be the conflict. So the confrontation doesn't work.
Yeah. You've said a lot, but in summing it up, what then would you say is a 3-step approach to just try to change this negative stigma?
The 3-step approach,
3 steps.
I would say is 1, understand yourself and how you deal with conflict internally and externally. Have conscious and understanding and be mindful of person's personality and characteristics that may differ from yours, and from that you can approach it from, this is our situation and we should work through it, and this is the objective, this is the goal that we're trying to achieve, and this is our way forward. And adding to the goal is the third one would be having an objective, a goal. If this is where you want the relationship to get to, what are the steps that you need to take together to get there? But remove the idea that we are perfect because there's no conflict, and we're not perfect because there is conflict. Remove that narrative and approach it and take situations as it is. It's unique to you and it's unique to your relationship. So remove any general solution to fix something that is so specific.
On that note is how we will end. This was Making It Last podcast. Thank you so much, Monique.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.